So maybe close your eyes for a second. There we go. Okay. Sorry, I'm actually running a little bit late. And in a world of cup turners and resin artists, I'm going to be that one acrylic artist. So let me get the stream pulled up on my computer really quick so I can answer any questions, comments. Hi, Andy. And I know we're going to have a ton of new people here today that are also probably totally new to acrylic pouring. I figured I would do a few vases, one of my favorite things to do. Who here has done acrylic pouring before and who has no idea what it even is? Let me know in the chat box so I can kind of see. Okay, some noobs here. No idea. Fantastic. That's good. That's good. So I can begin at the beginning. All right. So acrylic pouring is just you're making your paint fluid, and then there's a lot of different techniques that you can do with it. So I'm going to do some vases today, but there's a ton of other techniques. And when you're using just regular paint, so for instance, this is Artist Loft acrylic paint. Michelle says has done about 10 pours and is addicted. All right, so when you're using paint like this, I'll put it in my cup here. It is too thick. You're not going to be able to pour that anywhere. It's just a big clump. So the first thing is mixing your paint correctly and getting it to the right consistency. You can totally also cheat, which I do sometimes, and you can buy something like this. This is ready mixed pouring paint. You don't need to mix it at all. It's ready to go right out of the bottle. I usually mix my own though. So, what do you mix it with? Well, there's a few options. You can use a pouring medium. You can use glue. You can use, I use this. This is Flood Floetrol. If you're in the US, this is readily available at Lowe's and Home Depot. If you're in other countries, it's slightly less available, but there are other pouring mediums. And I add about 2/3 of this to 1/3 of the paint, but that's going to depend on the pouring medium you're using and the paint. Yeah, ready to pour are definitely more expensive. Sometimes they're worth it though, depending on what you're trying to do. The ready to pour tend to have less natural effects that they create. You might have heard a term called cells. So certain techniques you're going for getting what are called cells, which is just a reaction within the paints. So some premix pouring paints, they just have no reactions. All right, so you can see already that it is more fluid. It's still not to the point where I could easily pour it though, so I add a little bit of water to that. Okay. Yay, Trisha, that's awesome. All right. And yeah, ask all the questions in the world. Of course, on my channel, I have like a bazillion videos on mixing paint and all the techniques. I even have courses and stuff like that, but today's just going to be kind of a general overview. So I added just a little bit of water, and I'm going to just continuously test the consistency. We're going for, there's different ways people describe it, like warm honey or melted ice cream. You want it to be thicker than water, obviously, but thin enough that it moves around easily. If you make it too thin, just add more paint and pouring medium. So this is a good consistency. It's running off of my stick quite easily, but not like water. Thank you, Olivia. Okay. The pouring medium should not make your color lighter, but it depends on what you're using. So Floetrol has a natural like creamy tint to it, but it dries clear. So it may in the cup look like it makes the color a little bit lighter, but then as it dries, you'll be fine. I'm just removing. I got these new vases, some fun shapes, and I figured I'd show you a few different ways to do vases. And if I do another one of these virtual craft festivals, which I hope to, they're a lot of fun, let me know, guys, would you rather see some resin techniques, or are you interested in this acrylic pouring world? It's very different. I know the resin kind of goes with the woodworking. So the shelf life of the mixed paint depends on what you mixed it with. I've noticed when I mix paint with Floetrol, it can last in my sealed bottles for months and months and months on end. If you're mixing with something else, though, it may not last as long. You know what? We're going to do a survey at the end. So we'll do today's lesson, right? And then I'm going to survey that again at the end to see if you want resin or paint next time. Because who knows? You may be pleasantly surprised by this acrylic pouring and you had no idea. All right. We're going to start with, I might have to adjust my camera in a second. Hold on. I'm trying to get these pesky labels off of these vases. Sometimes quite the chore. And the vases I always seal with resin once they're dry. I let them dry for usually a couple weeks and then seal them with resin. Can I do a string pull demo next time? Sure. I might even be able to do it today. We shall see. Paint on wood. Okay. This is good feedback, you guys. All right. There we go. Okay. So for vases, there's a few different techniques. I have these. These are called cup turners. You might have seen them before. They're used for tumblers and stuff. So I do vases on here sometimes. Or I do it like this, upside down on a cup. So I'm going to do both techniques and kind of show you the difference of how they come out. Now, because you're going to be pouring on top of this, it's going to come down and it's going to go off and you're going to go through a lot of paint. So I always put a canvas underneath to catch. Yeah, I'll fix it. Don't worry. I will fix the camera angle. But I always put a canvas underneath to catch the runoff. And it's a 2-for-1 project. So give me just a second. I'm going to adjust the camera really quick. Hey, Gail. I can't push it forward because that's too far for me to reach. So I will adjust the camera 1 second. But really quick, let me know, guys, where is everyone tuning in from? Where's everyone watching from in the world? Let me adjust this as carefully as possible. 1 second. Here we go. All right, we got Canada, we got Texas. Ooh, a lot of Canadians in the house. For those who don't know, I'm in Los Angeles. Ignore my somewhat messy studio here. Ooh, we got the UK. All right, I'm gonna throw some gloves on. Okay. Now, because I have the canvas underneath when I'm doing the vase, I basically use the same ratios on the vase that I would use for the canvas. And if anyone wants to write this down, you can, but the ratios I use for how much paint I need per canvas is 1 ounce per every 16 square inches. So if you have an 8x10 canvas, you're going to use about 5 ounces of paint. And I have found that when doing vases, just using the amount of paint you need for the canvas is enough to cover both. All right. Yes, I'm very safe in Los Angeles. I know around the world it looks pretty dire. All right, so I'm going to, you can use any colors you want. I'm going to start with some white. I like white. And this one is a metallic navy blue. So these are all ones that I mixed previously. I'll throw in some of this orange that I just mixed. I actually really love orange and blue together, especially that. I've actually found that it is easier to mix your paint the day before. You can ensure better that it gets fully mixed. That's just my opinion. Hey, Susan's Art World. Okay. Just adding some different colors. This is another blue. Throw some more white in here. You can layer these as small of layers as you wish or larger layers. I'm going to throw some of this really pretty pink I have in here that I also previously mixed up. Yeah. All right. And maybe some gold. Time for another paint mixing party. Okay, let's do this. This is a golden yellow. This is going to be a really bright, colorful vase. Okay, let's cycle back through some of these. Whoop. Now remember, what color you put in first is what's going to come out last. So those will be the ones that end up on your vase. So kind of keep that in mind. The rest are going to go down onto the canvas. These are all acrylic paints. And you can use any brand. I would try to stay away from craft paints, but when you're just starting, they're pretty good. All right, that should be good. So I'm going to go ahead and start at the top of my vase here. There is a little bit of a dip on the top of this one, so I'm going to kind of go around the side more. But you can pour right in the middle like this. Now, if you're someone that sells art for a living, vases tend to sell very well. And sometimes also the client might want that 2-for-1 project. They want the canvas with it. Look how beautiful that looks already. Whoop, whoop. Okay. While that is running down, I was supposed to put all of everybody's links in the description, and I kind of messed up, so I'm going to do that now. So for those who don't know, I am participating in a virtual craft festival, which is super fun. And so every hour there is an artist participating. So after me, let me see who it is. I'm just going to add the full list into the description here. I was supposed to do that beforehand. And I do like to let this sit and drip for usually about 2 to 5 minutes. Here we go. Okay. So after me, we have Jake Thompson. There we go. Okay. The lineup is now in the description. You might need to refresh to see it, but it's there. Okay. Hey, Dorothy. Yeah, so super fun craft festival. And the fun thing about this is we have people from all over the world participating. People in the UK, people all over. So this is gorgeous, I think. Now, the reason for putting the cup underneath is so that you can move it off of the canvas. Otherwise, you have no way to move it off the canvas. It's going to have to stay there, right? So you carefully lift it up by the cup. Keep in mind, this paint is going to continue moving for several more hours likely. So if you do accidentally touch the bottom of the vase, don't even worry about it. Here, let me rotate this so you guys can see all the way around it. Got pink, orange, yellow, blue. Super gorgeous. All right, and then we do our canvas. Now the cool thing about doing vases on the canvas too is it creates this awesome pattern that you won't really get otherwise. And it kind of always ends up looking a bit feathered, like you can easily end up with like a phoenix or a peacock, depending on what colors you use. Tilt slowly. You can go in any direction you want, but don't start running the paint off too early. And sometimes I put this extra paint as liquid helps liquid flow. There we go. Trying hard not to touch my vase. Yeah, you just tilt it until you're happy with it. This is why it is really important to have enough paint, because if you don't have enough paint, you end up over tilting it. You can overstretch it and basically lose your whole design. So I say err on the safe side of maybe even a little more paint than you think you need. And even after the canvas is covered, you can, of course, continue tilting it until the pattern looks how you like it. There we go. Forking Owl said, I put the canvas on a lathe afterwards. You can do that. And then I just go ahead and touch up the sides. Any spots that got missed. I do sign my canvases. Hey, Linda. Long time no see. All right, let me bring you guys down for a close-up on the canvas, and then I'll move this out of the way, and we'll do the next one. Yeah, this is very satisfying. One other note, too, is I have parchment paper under here. I actually have a silicone mat even under that, but I am horrible and haven't cleaned it for a while, so I put parchment paper on top. But either way, all of this runoff, you let it dry, and then you can peel it off, and it becomes what's called acrylic skins, which I'll show you. Like this is an acrylic skin. And you can make that into other projects. You can make that into jewelry. You can make that into magnets. You can make that into book covers, bookmarks, all that kind of stuff. I have plenty of videos on that too. Yes, I resin these once they're dry, always. There are probably other things that you can use, but resin for me is the most, like, I know it's going to be fine. And people can wash it with no issues. And if I use something else, I'm always a little bit worried about it. Okay, looks like I got full coverage here. So I'm going to take the camera off and bring you in for a close-up. It's going to shake for just a second. 1 second. I'll go as smoothly as I can. And I am just a one-man show here. So you see that feathered pattern in there? So fun. And you'll get different results depending on the paints that you're using. So some of the pre-mixed pouring paints are thicker, some are thinner. Yeah, went a little wild on the colors on this one. Okay. Putting that back. All right, now I'm going to go ahead and move these to safety. I have a whole drying area that I raise these in, and then we'll do the next project. So talk amongst yourselves for just a second. Hey, Carl. I live in Los Angeles, so someone is always doing construction next door. Always. And depending on the temperature and the paint you use and things like that, these will take about 24 hours to dry. Just FYI. I'll actually move this over a little bit more. Okay. Yes, thank you so much, Carl and JP, for organizing this event. and for inviting me to be part of it. All right, let's do our next project. So for the next one, I'm going to go ahead and do it on a cup turner, which will give us a different result. Now on a cup turner, I do recommend having paint that is a little bit thicker. If you've ever used a cup turner before, you know that it just keeps, it's going to keep moving the paint until it's dry. Unlike resin, which kind of stops moving after a certain point, the acrylic just doesn't stop moving until it's dry. So you gotta kind of be a little careful with that. And once again, I'm gonna use a canvas here. So it does help to have paint that's a little bit thicker. Okay, shove this in my vase. This is a really cheap cup turner. I have 3 of them. Got them on Amazon, like 30 bucks. Totally worth it. Okay. So I don't need to turn that on yet. Let me go ahead and fill up some paint. So for this, I'm going to use this paint. This is the Artist Lock Ready Mix Pouring Paint, and it is a bit thicker. It also dries super shiny, and it's beautiful. I actually really like it. It is a little bit on the pricey side, so use your coupons, your Michaels coupons. And if you don't have another Michaels, if you don't have a Michaels in your area, there's definitely other pre-mixed pouring paints. You just got to kind of try them and see how they react or mix your own. All right, so same thing here. I'm going to fill up my cup. Oh, hey, Michelle. Thank you. Now I'm unfortunately out of white in this paint. I have some more that's ready to be picked up at Michael's, but I didn't have time to go to Michael's this morning. So we're going to do it without white, and that's going to be interesting. All right, here's some gold. I like gold. I'm going to get orange. I really like orange too. Jen C. Stevens said, do you have a particular resin that you like to use? Yes. I pretty much exclusively use Stone Coat countertops. They have a full line that will work for anything. So they have casting resin, they have the countertop resin, they have art resin that has a lot of UV protection. They have a quick coat. So yeah, I use, and they have so many additives that are amazing, dyes and everything. Okay, going in with this orange once again. I hope no one here is very adverse to orange, because I love it. I don't put primer on the canvas. These canvases are pre-primed, and most canvases are. They will usually specifically say it on, let me see. Yeah. So they'll usually say it on the package. So like for instance, this says here, archival acid-free, medium surface, titanium, acrylic gesso primed. If it's not primed, of course, you go ahead and prime your own. Okay, I just answered the what kind of resin do I use. How do you apply your resin? Well, that's a different video, and it depends on what I'm applying it to. So I'm not totally sure how to answer that one. To finish my artwork, I generally use the art coat. That's the one that's intended for it, but sometimes I use the countertop resin, to be perfectly honest. But usually the art coat. And this is going to be another really fun, bright one. I do seal my canvases. That I usually seal with actually like a spray sealer. Sometimes I do resin though, depending on my mood. Let's throw a little bit of black in here. Why not? Black can kind of take over, so you gotta be careful with it. Oh yeah, I have this green too. Okay. Nice and colorful. So at this point, I turn the turner on before I start pouring. If you want, you can cover your vase with just a solid color before you even start pouring, just to make sure that you get full coverage. But that's up to you. This one's pretty quiet. And it can spin different directions, and I think it might, I don't know if this one has different speeds or not. I have a few different cup turners. Okay. Important note too, clean your vase before you start pouring on it. I did clean this one already. Obviously remove any labels. And then we're just going to start pouring. Now the reason why I said have your paints a little bit thicker is because the fact that it keeps turning, the paint's going to keep mixing. So you pour really slowly. Make sure you get full coverage, because if you pour too fast, you'll be out of paint and your vase will not be covered. It is definitely harder to get full coverage this way, but it will give you a completely different result, a completely different look. And, you know, just depends on your preference. You might like this one better, you might like the other one better. I actually personally prefer the other method, doing it upside down on a cup. But that's just me. Ooh, I like the orange and gold together. Okay, so my cup's basically empty here. I definitely missed some spots. You can either go ahead and refill your cup, or you can do it with your hand. This turner is from Amazon. There's actually a link down in the description that says purchase the art supplies that I use, and it has it in there. I am gonna actually add a little more paint to my cup, just to be sure I have plenty on here. And I'm really liking that orange and gold together. I feel like some people are probably like, oh no, it's hideous. But everyone has different tastes, and that's okay. Yes, I seal the whole thing with resin after it's fully dry. Whoop. Just adding very little bit here. Okay. So I missed this spot down here. And this will, of course, give you a different look on the canvas as well. Wait for it to rotate. Okay. Still missed a little bit here. Yeah, if anything, acrylic pouring is just so relaxing, and it's just a lot of fun. I have a great time getting creative with ideas, trying new things. Can you paint resin on? I'm not entirely sure what you mean by that. If you could clarify, I will do my best to answer. You can do vases with resin, just this same method, if that's what you're asking. Definitely works well this way, not so much the other way. And I can absolutely show that the next time. Okay, so I'm just using my glove to just touch up a couple spots here that are a little bare. Yeah, you can use a paintbrush to apply resin, sure. I usually use my hands because I try to not use as many materials as possible. And I know if I use a paintbrush with resin, I'm probably not going to clean it. So it's just going to end up going in the trash. So I generally tend to apply resin with my hands, whether it be to a table or the only exception I think would be countertops, because that's just such a big surface. So I chop that and spread it like you're supposed to. Otherwise, I break the rules. Okay. So, just like with the other one, go ahead and move this out of the way. Carefully, of course. So move the canvas. Set the vase over here. Now this is going to keep turning for hours and hours. I will probably just leave it until tomorrow and I'll come back and it will be dry. So you can see here how the lines definitely get more mixed than on the other vase. The colors stay a bit more separate, but that's cool. Can give you just a totally different look. And our canvas looks very different as well. So I definitely have more time after this. Acrylic pouring is also fairly fast. Who would like to see me do a fun resin base after this one? Let me know. Get some mixed up pretty quick. Oh, this is so pretty. I actually really, really like this. This pre-mixed paint specifically is one of my favorites. This paint has so much depth that other pre-mixed paints just don't have. But you got to kind of learn to use it. It's a bit finicky. Okay. Yes, please. Yes, please. Yes, please. All right. Yeah, this does have like a little bit of a Starry Night vibe to it. If I just throw a little bit of yellow in there. Right. Almost there. Just gonna adjust this a little bit more. Let me flip this around so you can see it a little better. Try not to get that other wet paint. Normally I don't sit here and just do like 10 projects back to back. So I'll kind of clean up my space in between. There we go. So you can tell it's completely different than that other one. The vase and the canvas. So I'm going to come around, I'm going to fix up the sides again real quick, and then I'll bring you in for a close-up. I'll move all this nonsense out of the way, and we'll go ahead and do a resin base. Gwen said, have you thought about turning your tree ring as you're pouring like using a Lazy Susan? Yes, absolutely. I need to get a better Lazy Susan though. Okay. All right, I think we're pretty good. And yes, if you can't tell, I love blue. Blue's probably my favorite color. Okay, I'm going to take the camera down. It's going to shake for just a second. I can do the close-up here. Someday I'll have, 10 different cameras, but for now, I'll do my best. So pretty. This one has a depth almost a little bit more like epoxy. Not quite, but definitely more. Here is the vase. So I will let this completely turn. I will let this turn until it is completely dry. Look at that beautiful stone look it has, though. So pretty. Yeah. All right. Camera's going back. There we go. Okay. So let me move this stuff to safety somehow. And then we'll do a resin base. I'm going to try to see if I can do this one. I'll have to try to fit it on a cup turner. If not, we'll improvise. Okay. Let me set up a space for this in my rack. And I just use these. A lot of resin artists use these, but I just use these little painter's tripods to raise the canvases up. If you leave it flat like this to dry, you will have all this excess paint on the side. That's hard to clean up and make it look nice. So it's definitely better to raise it as it dries. Okay. All right. Now I'm a bit nervous because I wasn't really prepped to do resin, but I'm gonna just go for it. Okay. So right now I do have this hot mess here. So I'm going to go ahead and just put, I normally don't do this. I normally let that dry, but I'm gonna go ahead and put down some clean parchment paper. Carl says, I got this. All right. If you have faith, I can have faith. Come on. Okay. There we go. No one ever said that art was not messy. So I'm gonna grab another cup turner. We've had some insane rain the last few days. So my studio always needs some prep before the rains or it will flood, which is super annoying. Okay, let's see if this vase will fit on here. That's too big. Okay. I do have some other, you can buy these on Amazon too. They're just other little things that are different sizes. I'll try. Okay, that will work. So I always go ahead and shove it in the vase first. And then put your PVC pipe thing in there. And hopefully, yeah, there we go. Look at that. Now sometimes when doing a vase on a turner like this, the vase can be pretty heavy and the cup turners generally are not. So you might have to weight this side down just depending on it, okay? All right. Okay, so I presume that most people here are familiar with epoxy. Let me know if you have not done any epoxy. So for this, I am going to use the Stone Coat Countertops Art Coat. So it comes in part A, part B. Let's move this aside while I'm mixing. This is the 2-gallon kit, because who couldn't use 2 gallons? And where are all of my mixing cups when I need them? I just bought a ton of new ones. Okay, I'm gonna cheat. Like I said, I wasn't planning on doing this, so I wasn't totally prepared. Good news is for vases, you hardly need any epoxy. All right, so I'm just gonna use 2 cups. I usually use a measuring cup and I reuse those until the end of time. in this case. I'm just going to put equal parts. Now, not all epoxies are mixed equal parts. So it depends on the resin that you're using. I don't think the paint dries faster on the spinner, but paint on vases dries pretty quickly either way. Okay. Amy Spencer, I'm not sure what you were trying to say, but that was pretty funny. How I clean my measuring cups is I'm such like a cheater. I just leave the stick, the stir stick in there. When it dries, I just use that to peel out the resin. It comes right out. Clean cup. Use it again. This is the part A, so it's thicker. Hopefully that's equal parts. Oh. Now it's also a little bit cold in my studio, but you know what? We're just gonna make it work. I should have turned the heater on this morning and I didn't think about it. Okay. So the actual resin is generally a lot thicker than the hardener. So to mix the best, usually put this part A into the part B. See how thick that is? Now, because it's really thick right now, because it's cold in here, this is gonna just take a little bit of extra mixing. When it's cold in here like this, I put my resin in front of the heater and I warm up the bottles. This particular resin is equal parts by volume, but always check the instructions on whatever resin you're using because they're all a bit different. You know how you can tell when your resin's cold? See how white that is? If it's warmer, it's a lot more clear. Yeah, you can put it into a bowl of hot water. That's the other thing too. It's like a hot water bath. Absolutely. So in this case, I'm going to just go ahead and I'm going to dump it now back into the A cup. I'm going to mix it in there and then I'll put it back in the B cup again. I don't worry about getting bubbles from mixing. I always hand mix unless I'm doing a big project like countertops, which I'm usually not. Temperature does affect the epoxy. You usually want to do it in warmer, like in the 70s is a pretty good temperature. If it's too cold, it's just harder to get all the air bubbles out. It's harder to mix it properly. So, but if you're familiar with it, you just make it work. Yeah, even a lot of times, unless it's like the dead of summer and it's really hot in here, a lot of times I will leave my resin in front of the heater for a while before I mix it up. I'm just putting it back into the B cup. Does anyone have any color suggestions? I'm open for suggestions. I think vases that are red and gold are beautiful. But I also love blue. I love purple. I love peacock colors. Yes, a heat gun will remove the air bubbles. This is correct. But we can't heat gun it in a plastic cup. Purple and gold. Okay. All right, we're getting a lot of requests here for purple. Peacock colors. Okay. Purple, green, gold. All right. So maybe we'll do purple. What about purple, gold, and teal? I think we could do that. Those are kind of peacock colors, and teal is sort of green. Okay, so you usually mix this for about 4 minutes or so. I have not been timing anything, but I don't see any issue with mixing a little bit longer due to it being cold. Want to make sure it is fully mixed. Good news is if you ever mess it up, you can just put another layer over it. It's not the end of the world. Okay, so let me go ahead and get my colors out. So once both parts are mixed together, how long you have depends on the epoxy and the temperature in the room. Because it's cold in here, I probably have more working time. For this epoxy, you usually have about an hour as it is. But since it's cold in here, I probably have even more than that. Frankly, so. All right, got my colors. Let's see. This is my favorite gold. It's just resin gold. There's my purple. We'll use this real teal metallic. But I like to mix that one with the gold dust from Stone Coat. I'm gonna go ahead and use this real teal metallic. Ooh, I'm running out of time. Crap, where's my purple? Where's my purple? There it is, okay. All right, pretty much all the colors are accounted for here. We're gonna get some little cups. You need hardly any of the dye, or the micas for that matter. You can make this as transparent or not transparent as you wish. I usually like the vases to be pretty transparent myself with resin. So I usually go pretty light on the colors. How do the colors affect the standard set times for the epoxy? These ones don't, no. If you're using things that like other additives that are not necessarily meant to go in here, like acrylic paint, you might have some different reactions. I put acrylic paint in epoxy before and sometimes it works out beautifully. Other times it's not so beautiful. So the good thing about this art coat is that it has a ton of UV protection, which a lot of other epoxies don't have. So pretty much all epoxies are going to yellow over time, but the goal is to have them yellow less quickly. So if you're using some of the epoxies that you would get at like Home Depot or Michael's, those will yellow quicker. Okay, so you need no more than like 10% of your coloring to your epoxy. And you can use less coloring. If you use too much, your epoxy will not cure. So you gotta be careful with that. Get these all mixed up. So the mica powder, this is a mica powder, the teal. And it's metallic. It's gorgeous. This gold from Just Resin, it's a paste. And I like it because it is super sparkly. And it also tends to rise to the top. So some golds will sink. This one kind of rises to the top. You can, this epoxy is not intended for casting. That's not to say that you can't. I actually use it in coasters a lot, but I'll do more than one layer. Okay. Yeah, we have so much work time with this. So, but I only have 10 minutes left and I'm trying to be good. All right, this is ready to go. I am going to quickly wipe this off. And I did pre-clean it with alcohol. I'm just going to wipe it off because my hands touched it as I was putting it on. Okay, let's start the turner. It is rotating. And now I'm going to take some of my clear. Now, my gloves are definitely messy, so keep that in mind. If you want your clear to be absolutely clear, make sure you're using clean gloves. And I'm going to just coat this with a layer of clear just to help the other colors move around. There we go. Do not forget your bottom. Make sure you get that. And at this point, you can use a torch or a heat gun, but also making sure I get my edges here. I'm gonna grab my torch. I have all different kinds of torches. I have little ones, big ones, depending on the project I'm doing. For vases, I'll usually just use, this is just a little Burns-O-Matic. You can get at Lowe's, Home Depot, Amazon. Okay, and put just a little bit more. So I haven't tested every single dye with every single resin or anything, but these products are definitely well tested together. You will not have any issues. Okay, we've got our clear coat. Let's get in there with the fun stuff, the colors. Okay. I like to mix the dyes and the micas because the dyes don't have that metallic property that the micas have. So you'll get the less glossy look with the dyes, a more deep color usually. And most of them are transparent, or at least semi-transparent. Some are opaque. We're going to just go ahead and torch as we go. And you'll see as we torch it that it'll start moving around because it's warmed. You can use a heat gun too. Okay. Let me move this so you guys can actually see a bit better. Hold on. Come on. 1 second. And guys, do please thumbs up, subscribe to my channel if you like me. Feel free to super chat, super sticker. I also have a PayPal donation link. And once again, thank you so much to the organizers, to Carl. And make sure, I'll tell you in just a second, I'll remind you who's after me. But in the description is the whole schedule. So check that out. And if you can watch as many of the other awesome crafters as possible, that's much appreciated by everybody. Okay, so the torch, you torch resin to get rid of the air bubbles, and it also helps it to move because when it's cold, it doesn't really move. When it's warmed up, it moves around. It will not dry the resin. Not the same thing with paint. If you do that on acrylic paint, it will dry that acrylic paint more. Okay, we're getting in here with the gold. I'm just going to keep layering these. There's no right or wrong way to pour your colors on here. You can even apply them with your hands if you'd like. And you can leave bare spots of the vase. Totally up to you. I'm definitely going to go back and put more purple in here. And resin is basically self-sealing. So you can apply a sealing layer to this after it's dry. Like you can put a clear coat on it, but you actually don't have to. There are certain instances where you really should apply that clear coat, like on countertops or tumblers or something. But on vases, it's not really necessary, in my opinion. That's just my 2 cents. So I'm helping around with my gloves in a couple spots here. I've only got a couple minutes. Okay, I'm going to throw actually some more teal in there. And then I think I might call this a done. So the teal, I put hardly any of the powder in there. So the color's coming out pretty light, pretty transparent. So the more of the coloring that you add, of course, the more color it will have. Very self-explanatory. Okay. Now the resin on vases, you actually don't have to let it turn for quite as long, but it depends on the temperature. Because it's so cold in here, I will probably let it turn the full 24 hours. But when it's warmer, sometimes you only need to let it turn for like 4 or 5 hours. So that's going to depend on the epoxy you're using and the temperature. Okay. Joanne, I would just soak it, take the paint off, and repaint it. Stone Coat is food safe. Based off of the FDA whatevers. Okay. All right. You can use a creme brulee torch, absolutely. All right, so after me, let's see, we have Jake Thompson, and the link is in the description, and then a whole bunch of other super awesome artists. Okay, so please go and check them out. Yeah, let me actually get Jake's channel for you really quick. And then I'm going to bring you in for a close-up on this vase so you guys can see it a little bit better. And then we'll just pop over to Jake's channel. So let me see. Trying to get this link. There it is. Okay. Ooh, after Jake, we have a glass blower. Okay, let me bring you in for a close-up on this, and then we'll wrap it up. Thank you guys so much for joining me. Okay, camera's gonna shake for a second. Look how beautiful that is. So you can definitely still see through it. It's transparent, but I like the kind of partial transparency where it's not transparent on the whole thing, but most of it. So there's that vase. Really fun shape too. And let me just show you how this one is coming out. Look how beautiful that is. So definitely more mixed as it's turned. We've lost quite a few of the colors, but that gold is really staying, which is nice. And our other one here. So there you guys go. All right. Head over to that next channel. Thank you so much for joining me. Don't forget to subscribe. Thumbs up if you haven't already. And I will see you all next time.